For today's webinar, the topic is how to achieve effective daily management. Our presenter today is Rebecca Kennedy. Rebecca is the Director and General Manager of CTPM. She is an organizational development and change management professional with a track record in delivering major business transformation programs. So let's get started. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and I'll now pass you over to Rebecca.
Thanks, Nelson. Okay, let's show my screen. I like to always talk you guys through what I'm doing here. Okay, and let's hide you. Perfect. Okay, welcome everyone to this month's free webinar, where we like to give you little snapshots of different lean and continuous improvement topics. Last month we talked about how to find time for continuous improvement, and that led us into talking about daily management. So this month is diving into what makes effective daily management. First of all, I'll recap what the core principles of lean are, which I like to do with every one of these presentations. Then we'll recap what the key parts of a continuous improvement strategy is, which is what we covered in last month's topic. Always remember our previous topics are available to rewatch via our YouTube channel and online at our website. So you can always go back and have a look at those. Then we're going to dive into the 6 key elements of daily management. So the core principles of lean, if you've been to one of our webinars before, this should be rolling off your tongue by now. Put the customer at the heart of the business. We define value from the customer's perspective end to end. This needs to be understood for all products and services offered by the business. Observe processes, so we want to map all the steps that fulfill a customer need from initial request through to completion. Once we've got the map, we want to make them more efficient. Review the processes and how the value flows to the customer. Identify the non-value added steps and wastes, then remove them. We want to strengthen performance, systems and measures. Make performance and targets at all levels of the business more transparent to ensure effective deployment of resources and to encourage root cause problem solving. We want to empower everybody. Lean empowers the front line by shifting responsibility and accountability towards them and better leveraging their skills and knowledge. And always in the pursuit of perfection. Keep improving until everything the business does adds value to the customer. Daily management really puts a lot of these into practice in our day-to-day. So very excited to start running through how to use effective daily management, because you'll see these come to life. As I said, a recap of last month, we talked about the key parts of a continuous improvement strategy and how to find time for continuous improvement. So the 3 key parts of a continuous improvement strategy is 1, reactive improvement. So this is the one that we don't tend to focus on as much, but it's our ability on a day-to-day basis for how quickly we can get back to our plan and our expectations for the day after something happens that stops us, whether it be a disruption, an error, whatever happens, we're able to resolve it as quickly as possible and get back to our plan for the day, but most importantly, ensure it doesn't happen again. This is where our daily management fits in. We then have our work plan, which is how effective we are at planning our day or our week and actually sticking to that plan, which can be really hard in service organizations where we're driven by customers literally ringing us up and changing our priorities. The third area is proactive improvement. This is the one that companies tend to jump on board of in the first instance. It's your big bang, it's your projects, it's your events. It's the one that gets the limelight on it. But what we found out from our last webinar is if you only focus on one of those areas and not all of them together, you will not ever reach that perfection, that world-class performance. So on this little graph here, we've got the example of proactive improvement. So here, a team has said, let's do a big bang improvement cycle project. Awesome. We get a bit of an improvement, but we're not focusing on our reactive improvement. We're not trying to get things happening on a day-to-day basis and embed that culture of continuous improvement. So what happens the second time we will try to run the second project of improvement is that we're starting to have less and less time for it because we're not freeing up our daily time to focus on those bigger projects. And as you can see over time, you become less and less impactful in your proactive improvement approaches if you don't focus on reactive improvement. Also, your stable production plan, which is your daily or weekly work plan, it doesn't change either. So you can't become more effective in achieving your work plan for the week if you're still getting the disruptions that you aren't resolving in your reactive improvement. So all three are interlinked. Here, when you actually focus your attention on reactive improvement, which is our daily management, what happens is you start reducing down the 80-20 rule. You start getting rid of all those little wastes and non-value add activities. You're able to find them, address them, make sure they don't happen again. That then frees up your time for the big bang proactive improvement projects. So over time, your reactive improvement becomes less and less time impactful. You have to spend less time on it because you're getting more improvements, and you're freeing up your time for the bigger improvement activities, which is what gets you to that world-class performance. So each area is so important. And as your reactive improvement, your daily piece gets more effective, guess what happens to your plan for the week or the day? That becomes more effective. You're getting less disruptions. You're getting less things drawing you away from what you're trying to achieve on a daily basis. So reactive improvement really is the driver to achieve that world-class performance. It's your day-to-day. It's the piece that becomes our culture of continuous improvement and gets everybody in the organization involved. So I'm just going to hold there before we dive into what makes effective daily management. Do we have any questions? Good, all right, let's carry on. So what is effective reactive improvement through daily management? I mentioned it before, but it's our ability to rapidly identify and recover from an issue or an error that stops us from delivering our expected plan or performance for the day. Now, that alone, often we're pretty good at it. Firefighting is what we call that. That is where we're finding quick solutions so we can get back to making sure we deliver on time. But what we don't do, and the most important part of effective daily management, is initiating corrective actions so the issue or the error does not happen again, and not just in your team, but across the organization. And this is what daily management allows us to do. It gives us the tools to rapidly identify and resolve, but also share those learnings and make sure they don't happen again anywhere else. So why should reactive improvement via daily management be important to you? If I haven't sold it already in our journey to world-class performance and how important it is with our big events and projects in unison, then let's have a think. On a day-to-day basis, are you ever distracted with issues or problems that should not happen if everyone else was doing their work correctly? Whenever I say this in a room with people, it's great because I get lots of nods. A little bit harder on a webinar, but I'm just going to imagine you nodding. Do you ever find the same issues or problems repeating themselves? And have you ever thought what it would be like if every day went to plan and you achieved all that you wanted to with time to spare? The utopia, the dream of each of our working days. This is where daily management can get us to. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these 6 key elements that need to work together for effective daily management. First, we need to have appropriate measures. If we think back to our 6 principles of lean, measurements, this is where we're starting to get into our day-to-day, building it into our culture. We should have expected targets that are linked to the site's key success factors to ensure goal alignment and are relevant for the area being focused on. So companies and organizations are really good at putting KPIs in place, but they're so far up the chain that to me on my day-to-day basis, it means very little to me. So it's coming up with the measures that truly reflect what made a good day, what made a successful day for me and my team versus what didn't. And how do we measure those? Very easily. We don't want to get into complicated formulas. We want very quick things we can see that are tangible and show us trends on how our performance is doing in our team. Next, we want a visual information center. So it's all good and well having measures, but if we can't all see them, then how are we going to learn from them? So our visual information center becomes our central focus as a team around where our opportunities for improvements are. Our measures are on there, so we know whether we've hit them or not. We can see the trends of those measures for over a week and a month. Trends tell us where opportunities are, but also, really importantly, it captures actions. So we physically write up what actions are we working on, what issues have we identified, so that our whole team can see them. We can't hide from them. They're not going in a box. They're not going into the computer. They're visually on a board. We then want the right structure. So we want to make sure we've got the right people attending and we have different levels. This works at every level in the organization, and we want it to become a chain of information flowing up and down so that, as we said, we want to make sure these issues don't happen again anywhere in the organization. To do that, we need to have information flowing up and down, and having the right structure of daily meetings allows us to do that. Then we have our actual meetings themselves. How do we have an effective meeting? What is the agenda? And what is the objective of that meeting? So we want to make sure we're identifying opportunities, as we said, and monitoring progress of those solutions. We then get into what's a little bit more advanced. Any company we're first starting to work with who may not be experienced in daily management, we always implement the first 4. 5 and 6 is your next step. That is for your intermediate. So once you've got your daily meetings running effectively, we then introduce root cause analysis and frontline problem solving. That's the capability to really solve all those issues that come up as quickly as possible in the most effective way. So having that skill set is really important. And what we like to ensure is that everybody has the same skill set across all the teams so that they're finding solutions in the same way, talking the same language. Lastly is our rapid sharing of learning. So making sure that whatever we learn in one team can be shared with another team, and that links in with our structure. So let's have a look at these in a little bit more detail. Appropriate measures. So as we said, we want the measures to be linked to the site's key success factors. And what we've found in our experience is that usually they fall into these 7 categories. Now, sometimes some of these will be less important than others. This is the order that Toyota, our Northern Star of lean companies, has had theirs in. And it really comes down to how you make decisions. So first of all, the first one's safety and environment performance. We don't want anyone getting hurt. We don't want anyone getting injured. So safety and environment's really important. Now, the difference is in a manufacturing site versus an office environment, that becomes, it's still as important, but it's less of a risk. So we still need it there, but it's a less of a risk area for us. Next, we have quality performance, and then customer satisfaction, equipment. So is our equipment running effectively, or do we have downtime? People. Is everybody there when we need them to be to achieve the plan, or have we got sick leave? What's our supplier performance? Do any of our deliverables rely upon input from a supplier? If so, are we getting things on time, and is it of the highest quality? And then our inventory. Do we have things there ready to go? So as I said, we work with you guys, or you work to make sure that these link in with your organization's overall operational goals. And just an example of how you prioritize these. So quality and customer satisfaction. We often get asked, well, why isn't customer satisfaction before quality? Well, the question is, if a customer rings you up and says, I want this now, I need it this afternoon, get it to me. And you look at the piece of work and you say, okay, I can get it to them this afternoon if I don't do a quality check. Now, would you send it to them, or would you do the quality check first? And hopefully the answer is you would do the quality check first, because the customer won't be happy if they get it on time, but it's not correct. So the fact that we are prioritizing doing the quality check before getting it to the customer means quality comes before customer satisfaction, because ultimately it actually is the driver of customer satisfaction to a certain extent. So each of these we come up with measurements. As I said, the measurements don't need to be huge. We don't want formulas for them. We want really quick, tangible, observational ones that we can measure on a daily basis. And once we have those, we feed them into our visual information center. So here's an example of what that board could look like. We are simply tracking them on a daily basis. We don't want to track, we do track what the trends are, as I mentioned before, and we do that via run charts. So simple little graphs that we put dots on. Because once again, we don't want to be printing out lots of paper. We want all of this to be able to just happen on the board in the moment. So these are really easy things to measure. Were there any accidents? Were there any incidents? On one column, we have our target, which should be 0 for safety, and what actually happened. If we didn't meet the target, we write it in red. If we did meet it, it's green. See, once again, we're using visual colors to see things quickly. Quality could be reworks. How many things do we have to rework? Our goal is 0. We actually had to do 6 reworks. Customer satisfaction, do we have good output? So was the quality, once again, the quality linkage there? And did we get any complaints? Did we have any downtime of our equipment? And what were the actual number of people we expected to work that day versus unplanned absences? So you can see how these don't require formulas. We need to make sure they truly reflect how you work as a team. We then have our run charts. So each day, at the end of each day, we rub that out and we write the new numbers on there, but whatever number we capture, we put that on our run chart. The run chart is a simple graph, days along the bottom, numbers down the side, and we've got our target down the middle, and we just plot it and draw lines to connect it. That's our trends. We're going to be able to quickly see if we're getting a lot of quality issues or if it was a one-off. And that tells us where the opportunities are for improvements. Also, anything here where we missed it, why did we miss? Why did we not reach our target? Once again, opportunities for improvement. We then have our planning board part of the visual information center. This is simply, what's my plan for today, tomorrow, following day, any comments? So this just gets us all on the same page around what we're working on. We don't want daily meetings to be a debrief of what my plan is for the day. It's all about what's going to stop me from achieving my plan. Plan's there on the board. It's up there. It doesn't have to be massively detailed. It's just as long as everybody kind of has a view of what's going on. And the boards are to be updated before the meeting by the person responsible each day. So you don't want the first 5 minutes of your meeting being people filling in the board. You want that done before your meeting starts. But anyway, what we have here is visual. We've got measures and we've got them visually up there now so we can all see them. We can see what's happening in our team. Leads us, oh, I've got a beautiful example here. So this is a company we've worked with, and as you can see here, if you look really closely, you can see the run charts where they're plotting what's happened for each measure. This team had a lot of measures, but that truly reflected how their business ran. None of them were hard to capture, but we needed all of these to see how the business was being effective. We've also got our action list and escalation list on there and the agenda. So what you'll also notice there is the clock. On the clock, we have green and red. That's our timekeeping to make sure our meetings do not run over time. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment, but just keep a visual of that clock in your mind for me. All right, we then have the structure. So we've got our measurements, we've got our visual board. Now we need to make sure we've got the right people attending the meetings and that we've got an information flow up and back down. So this becomes literally a tiered approach. You have your frontline teams. So your delivery teams should be meeting first with a team lead. That team lead runs the meeting. That team lead then attends the next meeting up, which should be with the rest of the team leads. This all depends on how big your organisation is. But either way, all the team leads then attend, and their manager should be attending that. Then the next manager goes up to their meeting. And based upon what information we want to flow, the higher we get may not need to be a daily meeting. It can start to become weekly or monthly, depending upon the levels of the organisation. But what we clearly want to see here is you've got one person representing and leading the first meeting, they attend the next one. Then whoever runs that meeting usually has oversight of all those teams, then attends the next meeting. And it goes up like that so that there is a channel of information up, and then that person's responsible for channeling it back down. So we've got the information happening up and down, and that's the importance of the structure. Now, daily meetings only need to be 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. So it really doesn't take a lot of time out of the day. Now the actual meeting itself. So before I tell you how the meeting should run, let's firstly have a look at what makes not a great meeting. So whether or not you currently have daily meetings or just meetings in general, have you ever walked away saying that was a waste of time? If you're at a daily review meeting or just generally a meeting and targets haven't been met, do you find that excuses are made and workarounds are the only things discussed, not the root cause and how to ensure it happens again? And do issues continue to re-emerge at the meetings? Are you constantly talking about the same thing? So what makes a good daily review meeting? Firstly, the focus is to review the previous day's delivery using our board and our run charts, but it's by exception, and this is the key. And we want to allocate action items or root cause analysis if required. What we don't want is the team standing around and saying, so yesterday I worked on A, B, and C, and today I'm going to work on D, E, and F. What we're interested in is, we already know you're working on A, B, and C. Did you get it done? If not, why not? What do we need to do to make sure you get back on track? And what do we learn from that? So what action items do we need to put in place to make sure it doesn't happen again? Or do we need to do some problem solving around it? Then we want to confirm, are there any changes to the work plan? So yesterday when we spoke, you were expecting to work on A, B, and C. Is that still the case? Or have you had to change your plan due to anything that came up yesterday? So we want to talk about, is the plan still on track? We then review the action board. So our information board that has an action item list on it, we want to review that and make sure all the actions are on track, they're being worked on, and when they're going to be completed by. And this is where the accountability comes in. So we're making sure things are being resolved. Somebody's accountable for it. We've got a date for it. So the action board, when written up there on our visual information piece, nobody can get away from that. It's the best and easiest tool to have. When appropriate, review root cause analysis board and triggers listing. Allocate or feedback on progress of frontline problem solving. As I said, problem solving is an advanced technique. So starting off, we wouldn't have that, but as you get more advanced, you would start incorporating that into your daily management. You'd also review your parking lot and escalation board. Every information center has an escalation board as well, because there's going to be some things that your team can't resolve that you've identified. So the escalation board is there so that the team lead can then take it to their next level meeting, and it will keep going up the chain and be on every team's escalation board until somebody can own it and resolve it. So that way we know things are being worked on. Communication updates. So the channel of information up, the channel of information back down. Feedback from the previous higher level daily review meetings that your team needs to know. And any other issues by exemption to ensure everyone leaves knowing they have sufficient support to achieve their plan for the day. So this meeting should take no more than 10 to 15 minutes because we're not there to solve the problems, we're there to call them out and we give them to people to go resolve if need be. Often what happens is we've already resolved them because we're so good at firefighting. So then the action becomes, how do we ensure it doesn't happen again? So that is the key. Often I find teams will have nothing on their action list and I'll be like, guys, what's happening with, you said that stopped you from your plan yesterday, but you fixed it. How are you making sure that doesn't happen again? And teams forget. that, oh, even though we fixed it, we should put that on the action board. So it is a list of not just what do we need to fix things, but how do we ensure they don't happen again? Things to ensure that an effective daily review meeting runs effectively. You want the location as appropriate for the meeting. So you want it somewhere very easy for everybody to get to. You don't want them having to go between buildings or to different sites, ideally. You want everyone standing up. It's only 10 to 15 minutes. If they're sitting down, it can turn into a much longer meeting. Coffee facilities or vending machines not available as it's too tempting. Sometimes we can't get away from this, so the rule should be nobody makes coffee while the meeting is running. Agenda displayed with timeframes, so you want your agenda up there in your information center. The clock I told you to remember from our example, should be visible and in some cases colored in green. Your meeting should start where the green begins. You saw that one was 2:45. That's because the daily meeting was 8:45 every day and should finish at 9. So starts in the green. If you're getting into the red zone, your meeting should be wrapping up and everyone can visibly see that. Meeting starts and finishes on time. Here's a trick. Everyone's allowed to go if it overruns. If it's in that red zone and out of it on the clock, everyone's allowed to leave. So it keeps everyone really focused. They know this meeting's not going to drag and overrun. Issues are raised but not solved. If you get into solving issues in this meeting, it will overrun. Get it on your action list or your problem-solving list. Current performance updated by responsible attendees and displayed using visual prompts. So our measurements and our trends should be done before the meeting. Once again, we don't want to use up the time in the meeting to do that. That should be done beforehand. And lastly, we want to focus on helping develop leaders by supporting them to address their issues or concerns. So this is the empowering of everybody. When we go back to our Lean 6 key principles, empower people. We want to make sure the leaders at every level are supported to address their issues and concerns there and then as much as possible. Just a very, very quick intro into frontline problem solving. We have a very structured, CTPM has a very structured problem solving approach. And what this allows to do is that everybody speaks the same language in the organization and gets into the habits of problem solving, getting to the root cause of things. I'm not going to cover that today, but I just wanted to show you that it's very structured. We have forms for it. So once daily management is in place in your organization, this is the advanced step. This is what you get to next. And as you can see on this information center, where we originally had our misses and our trends, we've now also got frontline problem solving on the left and root cause analysis, on the right. You can also see there your agenda, your parking lot, and your action list. So that's what a full information center looks like. We've got our clock again, slightly different time. These meetings run from 2:30 to 2:45. Then our rapid sharing of learning was point number 6. We've already mentioned this, that it all comes down to the structure. So how we make sure that information is flowing up is that the lead of each meeting attends the next level meeting. Their sharing goes all the way up the chain and then it comes back down what needs to be known. So the structure is the key to the rapid sharing of learning and the use of your action lists and your escalation lists. They're the keys for going up and down and sharing that learning. So to you guys, how is your daily management? We've got a sheet that you can download and rate yourself and see whether this is an area you should focus on. Remember, daily management is our driver to free up time. This is how we get time for continuous improvement so that we can then work on the bigger projects. So I encourage you all to download that document. We'll also send it out via email and fill that in and just have a view yourself of where you're starting from. And if you would like our help, because that's what we're here for, you can reach us on LinkedIn. We also put videos and information up there. Our YouTube channel has all our previous webinars, and obviously our website has information. But we are here to help you with your continuous improvement journey. So in any way we can do that, please don't hesitate to reach out. Any final questions from anybody? that was quite heavy today, but hopefully you guys learnt a little something from it and are now interested in daily management. Personally, I think it's the most underrated area when companies first start their continuous improvement journey. We all like to start with the golden big projects, but daily management is really our key to getting that culture in place and the sustainability that we all desire. Any questions?
Okay. Thanks very much, Rebecca. It was a great presentation. Doesn't seem like we have any questions at the moment. And just keeping an eye on the time, I think we might just wrap it up from here. So just a quick reminder, as Rebecca said, that the recording of the webinar will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel this afternoon, so please feel free to share it with your colleagues. And also our next online session will be a 90-minute CI Masterclass on the 17th of April and on using CI to develop leaders at all levels. So just keep an eye out on our website for registration details in the upcoming week. And if you have any further questions on today's session, feel free to contact us at any time. Rebecca will be happy to answer all your questions. So on behalf of everyone at CTPM, thank you for attending, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.